On the quiet evening of July 15th, 2021, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the small coastal town of Silver Bay, Maine, was bathed in its usual serene beauty. The gentle waves lapped at the sandy shore, and soft yellow lights from the houses began to flicker, reflecting on the azure waters. Silver Bay, once renowned for its peace and tranquility, was suddenly shaken by a shocking event. Atop the high hill, where the luxurious mansion of the powerful financial couple, Benjamin and Sophia Westwood, stood, something unimaginable had occurred. The mansion, with its classic yet modern architecture, once a symbol of prosperity and power, was now shrouded in the darkness of an unforeseen crime. The dim lights from the mansion's rooms could not conceal the heavy and mysterious atmosphere that enveloped the place. The wind from the sea, blowing up the hill, carried a chill that hinted at something terrible that had taken place. That night, Silver Bay's tranquility was torn apart, and dark secrets began to unfold, terrifying the entire town. Just moments before, Benjamin and Sophia Westwood had been enjoying a quiet evening, or at least, that's what anyone would have thought. But in that instant, no one could have predicted that the mansion would become the scene of a gruesome murder, where their lavish lives would end in a bloody tragedy, leaving Silver Bay forever changed. The next morning, the Westwood family's hilltop mansion remained eerily quiet. The first rays of the new day gently streamed through the large windows, creating a seemingly peaceful scene that concealed something unusual. Mrs. Laura Morrison, the housekeeper who had been with the Westwood family for over 20 years, began her day as usual. She was accustomed to the sound of her employer's laughter and bustling footsteps in the morning, but today, the atmosphere in the house was unusually quiet and unsettling. Mrs. Laura suddenly felt uneasy when she didn't hear any sound from the upper floor every morning. She would have breakfast ready, and usually the Westwoods would be in the dining room early. But today, the plates of food remained untouched on the table, and their absence started to make her restless. She decided to go upstairs to check. She walked lightly up the stairs, a cold shiver running down her spine. As she reached the master bedroom door, she paused, sensing that something was wrong. The door was slightly ajar, revealing a small gap. Something that rarely happened in this meticulously kept house. Mrs. Laura took a deep breath and gently pushed the door open. The scene before her left her paralyzed with shock. On the large bed, Sophia Westwood lay motionless, her eyes closed. Surrounding her body were blood stains soaking into the pristine white bed sheets. The pillow beside her was also drenched, creating a horrifying sight. Mrs. Laura stumbled backward, her hands and feet trembling uncontrollably. She tried to maintain her composure, but the pounding of her heart and the rapidness of her breath nearly made her collapse. The entire room was engulfed in a deathly silence, with only her heavy breathing echoing through the space. She hurriedly ran out of the room, her legs nearly giving way, but she forced herself to make it down the stairs. Each step seemed to stretch on endlessly, with the image of Sophia's pale face and the haunting red stains lingering in her mind. When she finally reached the phone, she immediately called the police, her voice shaky but strong enough to convey the tragedy she had just discovered. "Help Mr. and Mrs. Westwood. Something's happened." Her voice, though small, carried the weight of immense horror, resonating throughout the empty mansion and spreading a wave of unease across the once peaceful town. Shortly after receiving the call from Mrs. Laura Morrison, two veteran detectives of Silver Bay, Jake Harrison and Estelle Wyman, along with the local police force led by Officer Mark Thompson, swiftly arrived at the Westwood mansion. The blaring sirens shattered the morning silence, drawing the attention of the surrounding neighbors. The police car pulled up to the gate, and Harrison and Vyman stepped out with serious expressions, followed by Officer Thompson and his team, all prepared to face whatever awaited them inside. As they entered the mansion, they immediately felt the tension and heaviness in the air. Mrs. Laura, pale-faced and trembling, stood in the corner of the living room, pointing toward the staircase leading upstairs. Without waiting for further instruction, Harrison signaled to Vyman and Thompson, and the group quickly moved upstairs, following Mrs. Laura's description of the horrifying situation she had witnessed. When they entered the master bedroom, the sight before them left the group speechless. Sophia Westwood's lifeless body lay on the bed, surrounded by dried bloodstains. The walls and furniture bore signs of a struggle before her death. But this was not the whole story. Detective Harrison, with his sharp eye, noticed that the door to the adjacent study was slightly ajar. He motioned for Vyman and Thompson to approach. As they opened the door, another haunting scene unfolded. Benjamin Westwood, Sophia's husband, slumped in a chair, blood seeping from a gunshot wound to his chest. A handgun was found on the desk, but there was no indication that it had been fired by him. Everything in the study remained intact, with no signs of ransacking or vandalism. Detectives Jake Harrison and Estelle Wyman, along with Officer Mark Thompson, immediately cordoned off the entire scene. They meticulously checked every corner of the house but found no signs of forced entry. The doors were locked from the inside, and the windows showed no evidence of being tampered with. This suggested that the perpetrator might have been someone familiar with the family, or perhaps even one of the two people now lying dead. Harrison and Vyman swiftly began collecting evidence, photographing every minute detail at the scene. The bloodstains, the positioning of the bodies, and everything around them were carefully documented. The presence of two bodies in the same house, combined with the lack of signs of forced entry, posed a perplexing puzzle for the investigation team. This case was not merely a murder, but a complex mystery that needed to be unraveled. Silver Bay, once a peaceful place, had now become the center of a chilling and intricate investigation, drawing attention not only from the town's residents, but also from the surrounding areas. Harrison and Vyman began methodically examining the crime scene, attempting to piece together the elements of this bloody case. As they conducted the autopsy of Sophia Westwood, they observed clear signs of a brutal attack. Sophia had been struck multiple times on the head with a blunt object, causing severe injuries before her death. The blood splatter around the bed indicated that she had struggled desperately but was unable to escape her tragic fate. Meanwhile, Benjamin Westwood's body was found in the adjacent study. With a single bullet lodged in his chest, the handgun discovered near his body became a crucial piece of evidence. However, something strange was noted. The gun bore no clear fingerprints, suggesting that someone had either wiped it clean or worn gloves when using it. During the investigation, detectives Jake Harrison and Estelle Wyman uncovered another detail that caught their attention. On Benjamin's computer screen, they found an unsent email. The content of the email was cryptic, involving a large sum of money related to a property transfer. This immediately raised several questions. Could there be a financial motive behind the crime? Who was the intended recipient of this email, and could it be connected to the case? The email not only mentioned a large sum of money, but also referred to an important meeting scheduled to take place in the coming days. Harrison and Vyman began to consider the possibility that this might be part of a larger conspiracy, or perhaps the main reason for the couple's deaths. The two detectives meticulously examined every detail in the mansion. They searched for clues in personal belongings, financial records, and even the neighborhood security cameras. However, everything seemed to grow more complicated as they found no clear evidence pointing to the culprit. It all led to a bigger question. Who committed this brutal crime, and why? Meanwhile, suspicions regarding financial motives and personal relationships began to surface, forcing detectives Jake Harrison and Estelle Wyman to broaden the scope of their investigation. What initially seemed like a straightforward case had now evolved into a complex web of secrets, deception, and hidden conflicts within the Westwood family. As the investigation expanded, Harrison and Wyman quickly focused on identifying individuals who might be connected to the case, particularly those with close ties to the Westwood family. One of the first names to emerge on the suspect list was Mason Westwood, the only son of Benjamin and Sophia. Mason, a young entrepreneur, had just returned from an extended business trip abroad. According to several acquaintances, Mason had met with his parents the evening before the crime occurred. He was the last person seen with them before they were murdered, which immediately placed him at the center of Harrison and Wyman's attention. When summoned for questioning, Mason did not hide the fact that he had been in conflict with his father over financial matters. He admitted that in recent times there had been several heated arguments between him and Benjamin Westwood regarding the division of the family assets. As the head of the family, Benjamin had made decisions that Mason felt were unfair, leading to growing tension between them. However, Mason Westwood insisted that despite the conflicts, he was completely innocent. He claimed that he was not present at the scene when the crime occurred. According to Mason, after meeting his parents the night before, he left the mansion and returned to his own apartment in the city center. He further testified that he had met with several business partners at the time detectives Jake Harrison and Estelle Wyman estimated the crime had taken place. Nevertheless, Harrison and Wyman continued to investigate Mason's statements, verifying his alibi by contacting the people he claimed to have met that night. They also reviewed phone records, security camera footage from the mansion, and other locations to confirm the accuracy of Mason's account. Although there was no clear evidence to incriminate Mason, the fact that he had conflicts with his parents and was the last person to see them alive kept him on the list of prime suspects. Questions remained. Was Mason truly innocent as he claimed? Or was he hiding something? The investigation seemed to be reaching a dead end, but Harrison and Wyman knew they had to consider every possibility, every motive, and every family secret that might have led to this tragedy. As the investigation unfolded and Harrison and Wyman began to delve deeper into Benjamin Westwood's personal life and business dealings, a new name unexpectedly surfaced: Angela Brooks, a young and ambitious businesswoman who had maintained a close professional relationship with Benjamin over the past few years. But their relationship extended beyond mere business partnerships. Through the review of financial records and email exchanges, detectives Jake Harrison and Estelle Wyman discovered that Angela Brooks was in Silver Bay on the very night the crime took place. This immediately caught their attention, as such a coincidence could not be dismissed as random questions began to arise. Why was Angela, who usually only met Benjamin Westwood at major events or business meetings in the city, present in this small town on that fateful night? Harrison and Wyman continued their investigation and uncovered some suspicious information. Angela was not just a business partner of Benjamin's, but also had a deep personal relationship with him. This relationship had been ongoing for some time, and according to multiple sources, it had begun to affect Benjamin's personal life. Furthermore, Angela had recently discovered that Benjamin was still in contact with a former lover, which left her feeling betrayed and hurt. A financial motive also began to emerge in this picture. Benjamin was the head of a large investment fund, and Angela had several joint projects with him. However, recent financial transactions between them showed signs of disputes and disagreements. The property transfer that Harrison and Wyman had found on Benjamin's computer seemed directly related to Angela, further strengthening the theory that she might have had a motive to eliminate Benjamin to protect her financial interests. With all these facts, Angela Brooks became a prime suspect. Harrison and Wyman began closely monitoring her activities and conducted interrogations to uncover the truth. In the initial interviews, Angela remained calm and insisted that she had nothing to do with the deaths of Benjamin and Sophia. She admitted to being in Silver Bay that night, but only for the purpose of meeting Benjamin for an important business discussion. Although Angela Brooks's testimony sounded plausible, her timely appearance, complicated relationship, and clear financial motives kept her firmly in the circle of suspicion. Detectives Jake Harrison and Estelle Wyman knew that to uncover the truth, they needed to dig deeper into the relationship between Angela and Benjamin Westwood and determine whether jealousy and personal gain were the primary drivers behind this tragedy. The investigation, which spanned several days, gradually began to place the pieces of this horrific case into their correct positions. After focusing their suspicions on Angela Brooks, Harrison and Wyman continued to delve deeper into the physical evidence at the crime scene. Finally, a crucial discovery shifted the direction of the investigation entirely. Mason Westwood's fingerprints, Benjamin and Sophia's son, were found on the handgun near Benjamin's body. This discovery made it impossible for Harrison and Wyman to avoid suspecting Mason, and he was immediately taken into custody for more thorough questioning. Initially, Mason continued to vehemently deny any involvement in his parents' deaths. However, when Harrison and Wyman presented the undeniable evidence of his fingerprints on the murder weapon, Mason began to show signs of distress and anxiety. After hours of intense interrogation, Mason finally admitted the truth. He recounted that on the night of the crime, he had gone to see his father after discovering Benjamin's relationship with Angela Brooks. The anger and disappointment he felt upon learning that his father had betrayed his mother, combined with the ongoing disputes over family assets, caused Mason to lose control. In a heated confrontation, words quickly escalated into violence. In a fit of rage, Mason grabbed his father's handgun and shot him dead in the study. But the tragedy did not end there. When Sophia Westwood heard the commotion and rushed into the study, she was met with a horrifying scene. Her husband slumped in the chair, and Mason standing there, holding the gun. In a panic, Sophia ran towards him, trying to stop him and take the gun away, but in his frenzied state, Mason attacked his mother. He confessed that he delivered fatal blows before she could cry for help. Mason tried to justify his actions by claiming he had no intention of killing his mother, and that the entire incident happened in a moment of uncontrollable emotion. He insisted that everything occurred too quickly, and he had no time to think or plan. His actions, though brutal, were driven by the explosive anger and betrayal he felt towards his father. Although this confession could not excuse the horrific actions he committed, it helped detectives Jake Harrison and Estelle Wyman to better understand the sequence of events. Mason Westwood, in his rage and despair, had become the killer of the very people he loved most, despite his attempts to deny any premeditated intent. The reality remained that he had committed an unforgivable crime, leaving the town of Silver Bay shaken and forever scarred by this story. After weeks of intense investigation, the case in Silver Bay finally came to a close. The evidence in Mason Westwood's confession brought the full story to light. Although Angela Brooks was initially under suspicion due to her complex relationship with Benjamin Westwood, the investigation ultimately found no evidence to directly implicate her in the murders. After undergoing multiple interrogations, Angela Brooks was released. While her relationship with Benjamin Westwood had caused significant turmoil in the Westwood family, there was no evidence to suggest that she had participated in or had a direct motive leading to the murders. She returned to her life, carrying the emotional wounds and the damage to her reputation. But at least she was cleared of suspicion by both the public and the law. Meanwhile, Mason Westwood had to face the consequences of his actions. With his confession of killing his father in a fit of rage and attacking his mother, leading to her death, Mason could not escape the harsh judgment of the law. He was sentenced to life imprisonment for murder, fully accountable for the deaths of his parents. The case was closed, but the aftershocks it left on the community of Silver Bay would not easily fade. The Westwood family mansion, once a symbol of prosperity and success, now stood as a mere reminder of a tragic family disaster. Their story became a cautionary tale about the dangers of uncontrolled emotions and the devastating consequences they can bring. With Mason's sentencing, justice had been served, but for the townspeople, this case would forever be a scar in Silver Bay's history, a reminder of the fragility of family happiness and the dark secrets that might lie beneath a glamorous exterior. The murder case in Silver Bay was not just a shocking event for this small community, but also a profound warning about what might lie hidden behind the perfect facade of a family. The Westwood family, seemingly living in prosperity and happiness, was ultimately undone by simmering conflicts, betrayal, and uncontrolled emotions, leading to an unimaginable tragedy. This story is a clear example of the dangers posed by negative emotions like jealousy, anger, and betrayal. When these feelings are not properly managed, they can escalate and result in irreversible consequences. In the case of Mason Westwood, his anger and sorrow drove him to cross moral boundaries, leading to the tragic deaths of his own parents. The case in Silver Bay left an indelible mark on the community, serving as a haunting lesson about the dangers of unresolved family conflicts. This case not only reminds us of the importance of emotional control, but also underscores the value of respect and empathy in family relationships. It is a painful lesson on the consequences of a lack of restraint, where unchecked negative emotions can lead to unimaginable tragedies. Silver Bay will forever remember the story of the Westwood family as an inseparable part of the town's history. This event brought not only pain and loss, but also highlighted the importance of resolving conflicts peacefully. If conflicts are not properly addressed, they can fester and lead to serious threats, breaking family bonds and leaving unforeseen consequences in their wake. Ultimately, the story of the Westwood family leaves a powerful message. Violence is never the solution to any conflict in any circumstance. The use of violence only leads to pain and loss. It is essential to have empathy, patience, and mutual respect in relationships to maintain peace and happiness. This tragedy serves as a reminder that decisions made in anger or desperation can result in irreversible consequences, not just for oneself, but for those around them. Our story ends here today. What do you think about this case? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below the video. If you enjoyed it, give us a like, share it, and help us stay motivated to create more videos. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, and see you next time.